Well, good morning, CSL. For my longtime friends and my brand new friends, whether in the house or online, if I haven't had the privilege to meet you yet, I'm Reverend Ben Jamison. I'm your associate minister here, and it is my privilege to serve at Centers for Spiritual Living, where we have 7 core values that guide everything that we do. Those 7 values are love, healing, oneness, abundance, spiritual growth, service, and diversity. This week, we're focusing on abundance. I had a really great reminder of abundance this week. My wife and I finally got to move into our house, and there's a coconut palm in the backyard, which we were so excited about because we love fresh young coconuts and drinking the coconut water. We move in on the first day, and a coconut falls. So we've got this coconut. All of you laughing know exactly where I'm going, right? We've got this one coconut. It was great. The next day, there were 5 on the ground. The next day, there were 7 on the ground. And I'm thinking, what in the world am I going to do? There is an overabundance of coconuts. Overabundance? Too much abundance? What? I didn't know that I had that idea operating in my consciousness, that there could be too much of a good thing. I caught it, and I got rid of it. So friends, if you ever say there's an overabundance of anything, pull that back and affirm the truth that there is not an overabundance. There is enough abundance. There is a great amount of abundance, and you are able to receive every single bit of it. The other wonderful reminder is that when we look at nature, at a coconut palm, at a banana plant where you harvest 50 bananas at a time, abundance is normal and natural out in the physical world. We just get so caught up in this idea of money, which society tells us is scarce and limited, that we forget that nature is abundant in its normal natural state, and that we, as part of the normal natural world, are connected to that abundance. So this week, take some time to look around. Whether it's bananas or coconuts or the little curly-tailed lizards or the sand on the beach or the leaves on a palm frond, whatever it is, see the abundance everywhere present in nature and claim that as part of who you are, because as an emanation of spirit in the natural world, it is who you are. And so I celebrate your abundance and look forward to practicing that with you this week. Namaste. Thank you. So for all of the new folks here, we have lots of you in the audience, and I'm so happy to see that. We like to take a book every month and focus on one book, pulling all of the inspiration for the talks from that book to help focus what we're doing here. This month, that book is This Thing Called Life by Ernest Holmes, who did find the Centers for Spiritual Living. And so we're looking at closing up that exploration today with a talk on reflections. And this comes from one quote within the book that says this: "The law of life is like a mirror. It reflects back to you the images of your thoughts in exactly the way you think them." This one quote right here is the best and the worst of New Thought and metaphysics all wrapped up into one sentence. Because what it says is, my experience is not based upon the conditions that happen in the world outside of me. It's based upon the thoughts I think about those conditions. And that if I don't like the experience I'm having, I can find a new thought. That's why this philosophy is called New Thought. You want a new experience? Get a new thought, right? So if I change the way that I'm thinking about the things happening around me, my experience of those things will change, which brings about the freedom for me to have an active participation in how I create the experience of my life. Now, the downside of that is that it means the work is up to me. Nobody else can get inside my consciousness and change my thinking for me. That's up to me. And if I don't choose to change my thinking, even though my circumstances might change, my experience will not if I'm carrying the same consciousness around with me that I was previously. But if we use this law of life, if we use the fact that life reflects back to us our thoughts in exactly the way we think them, we have a wonderful guidepost to grow and to change our experience. I have a perfect example of this from my own life from this last week. On Friday of last week, right before our big event, Hats Off to Our Heroes, I finally got to move into my new house. And we had a very limited time to do what we needed to do. There was going to be rain that afternoon. The next day was hats off. So we had to get the moving pod delivered early in the morning so that we could time out getting our cat from the Airbnb to the new house so that she could explore the house empty. 3 cats used to live there, and we wanted her to see they weren't hiding in closets, right? And then take her back. We do way too much for our cat, right? They rule the roost, don't they? They're really the ones in charge. She's worth it. Anyway, get her to look there, get back to the Airbnb so that we could load in and out without having to worry about her running out of the house. Everything was planned. The pod was showing up at 8 o'clock. We had until about 2 before the rain started to unload everything, and then we would be great, right? Perfect. Right up until 7:30 in the morning, when the pod people called me and said, "Trucks broke down on the side of the road. We have no idea when we're going to show up." What did I do? Oh, man, I'm so screwed. What now? The truck is stuck down on the side of the road. I have no idea when it's going to get here. I have such a limited amount of time to get everything out of the pod. I know I can't unload tomorrow because tomorrow is our big fundraising event. I'm going to be working all day. What am I going to do? Who can I call and complain to so that they get another truck to go down to the side of the road where this truck is broken down to get the pod so that they can get the new truck to me? And what am I going to do? Oh, my God, right? I'm thinking thoughts of stress and, oh, my God, I'm screwed. And the law of life reflected that back to me in an experience of being stressed. And, oh my God, I'm screwed. What do I do now? Well, luckily I caught myself. I said, "Ben, what the hell are you doing?" Which is a great thing to say, to remind ourselves that heaven and hell are not real estate that we buy after we die, but are experiences we have in the present moment based on what we're thinking about what's happening around us, and I was surely creating a hellish experience for myself. So I said, wait a second, what do I believe about life? Well, I believe that the universe, the infinite presence of love and wisdom that birthed everything, is with and for itself, and that it always brings about grace and ease and the highest good of all concerned. So even if I can't see it in the moment, somewhere in this delay of the truck, there must be an opportunity for things to go smoother than I ever thought they would. I don't have to know what it is, I just have to know that it's there, and in so doing, I start thinking about what the opportunities are that I have with all of this extra time. Well, we can do a deeper cleaning on the house than we've done before, so we don't have to spot clean when we put down a bookshelf or a bed somewhere. I can notice that my cat is so much happier in the house than she was in the Airbnb that instead of taking her back there, I can go get her stuff and set her up in one of the bedrooms so that she's locked there but has all of her stuff and is happier. So many opportunities started to show up on how I could shift what I was doing to make the experience even more graceful than I had planned, because I shift my thinking from, oh no, what now, to what's the possibility here? How can I make use of this time and make things even more graceful than I ever thought they would be? And as soon as I changed my thinking, my experience changed. It was an instantaneous demonstration of the law of life, reflecting back to me my thought in exactly the way I was thinking it. Now, of course, sometimes this is easy, right? If it's just a moving pod that's late, it's a little bit easier to do this work than it is if we're dealing with thinking patterns that we have established over our lifetime of not really being aware that those were creating our experience, and now they're ingrained in our subconscious and we have to replace them, right? That can take a lot of work, but this is how we do that work. When we find ourselves in an experience we don't like, we stop and say, wait a second, how can I look at this differently? What are the different thoughts I can think about what's going on here? What might be the opportunity here for me that I'm not seeing? And as we begin to ask ourselves those questions, those opportunities will begin to show up. And when we do this, when we start doing this work, an interesting thing happens. Life gets a little easier. Things start to work out a little more gracefully. We're a little happier, a little lighter on our feet, maybe a little more abundant. And as we continue in this, more and more our life gets better and better. Because really what we're doing is we're taking off the masks that we have unconsciously put over our authentic self. And we're letting that authenticity, that light, that loving spiritual nature that we are shine through a little bit more, so we're a little bit more aligned with life. Another thing can happen when we start to do this work that can be a little more difficult. You see, the law of life responds to everybody in exactly the same way. And as we start to grow, as we start to take off the masks, the law of life will use us as the mirror for friends and family and other people in our lives who have yet to start taking off the masks. They will begin to see the greater authenticity, the greater light that we are bringing to our life, and they may be uncomfortable by it. They might be really great with it, right? They might say, "Oh my God, what are you doing? Your life is getting better, you're more joyful, you're more happy all the time. I want what you got, what's going on?" And then we say, "Well, come with me to CSL, we'll get you all set up," right? And then you get to grow together, and it's wonderful, and it's great, and your relationship deepens, and it's beautiful. That's the outcome we always want. Doesn't always happen that way, though. There's a crab fishermen have a really easy time because they don't have to put a lid on top of their crab barrels. As soon as one crab tries to escape, the others will pull it back down. And so when our friends and family see their reflection in the growth that we have, they may try to pull us back down a little bit. Because sometimes it can be easier to remain where we are than to actually look at the reflection that life is showing to us. We got some options, right? We can tell a little bit more about what it is that we're doing. You know, when they say something like, "What are you doing? Do you really think that you can change your thinking and change your life? Are you part of a cult? Did you join a cult? What's going on there," right? Well, we can explain it a little bit more, right? We can talk a little bit more about what our experience is and how it works, that when we change our thinking, our lives change, and we can give examples, and maybe they'll be open to having an exploration with us. And maybe they won't. And that can be difficult, right? We may have to take some time to set some boundaries with friends and family who are trying their best to pull us back down. And again, this is not an ill-intentioned thing, friends. We don't want to look at this experience as somebody negatively out trying to get us or trying to harm us in any way. That's not what it is. It's just that sometimes it can be so painful. You know how you wake up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and you're fumbling around and you hit the wrong light switch and the bright light comes on, right? And the first thing you do is you jerk away and close your eyes and try to turn off the light so you can go back to sleep, because sometimes the light hurts our eyes if we're not ready for it. So we can use that reflection to help find a little bit of compassion in our hearts. We can set some boundaries if we need to. I have not had the unfortunate experience of having friends or family say things to me like, "You know, if you continue down this road, you're going to be burning in hell forever." But I can imagine if I did, that would be a boundary that I would need to lovingly set. Saying something like, "You know, I love you and I really want to remain in relationship with you, but talking to me that way doesn't work for me. And I would much prefer that rather than focusing on your fears about what might happen, I would rather you put your attention on your faith, that I am in my right and perfect place, and that God has me, and that I am learning and growing, and that everything is going to be just fine." They may respect our boundaries. They may not. We may have to choose to let certain relationships go as we grow. We may not have the choice. Right? Sometimes these relationships may leave us whether we want them to or not. There's really no way in a 20-minute talk that we can dive into the depths of this, but there are certainly things that we can do. There are certainly ways of being that we can bring to our own experience to help. The first of those is setting those boundaries. The second thing we can do is work to unravel our relationships. Particularly when it comes to relationships and religion, we tend to have our relationship to God or Spirit, to church and church authority figures, to our friends and family, and to ourselves, all knotted up together. So that if one of them doesn't seem to be going well, it seems like all of them are in the pits. But if we do the work to unravel those, whether it's in our own introspection or with a practitioner or with the help of a mental health professional, whatever we need to do, we can look at those four separately and see that really there might only be one or two that are struggling and that the others are good, so that takes a little bit of the pressure off. And then we can begin to focus on the most important of those relationships. Some people would say that's the relationship with God. I would argue that's incorrect. Let's take a look at it from the perspective of Spirit, the universe, God, whatever word works for you in describing what that principle is. Here at Centers for Spiritual Living, we know that God is the unlimited, unconditional presence of perfect loving and creative capacity that so loved itself that it had to express itself so it could know itself through its expression. And the entire physical universe is the manifest body of that unconditionally loving presence, including you, including me. So that unlimited, unconditional presence of love that cannot do anything other than love and create itself, created you because it loves itself as you so much it had to know the magnificence of you as itself, regardless of what's happening in your life. From that side of the relationship, sounds pretty good, right? No need to worry about that. From our side of that relationship, let's look at a couple more quotes from Ernest Holmes, who founded Centers for Spiritual Living. The first quote is a quote, the second is a paraphrase. He says, "The highest God and the innermost God is one God." And then the paraphrase, "The only God you will ever know is the God you find within your own consciousness." So if the highest God and the innermost God is the same, and the only God I'll ever know is the God I find within my own consciousness, then clearly the most important relationship I have is the relationship with myself. Because that's where I'm going to find God. That's where I'm going to deepen my understanding and my experience of Spirit and the universe and how I relate to it by allowing the reflections of life to guide me. Friends, that's also where all of the relationships with our friends and our family exist. It can be so easy to get confused and think that those relationships exist out in the physical world, but they don't. They exist within your own consciousness. It can be easy to think that you are experiencing me up here on the stage, but you're not. You're experiencing me within your own consciousness right where you are. So as we begin to work on our relationship with ourselves, we can make better the relationships that we have all around us. We can also acknowledge that every relationship that we ever have will end. Every single one of them. At some point, we're going to leave this body and all of the relationships along with it. And whether the leaving of the relationship is our choice or not, there's grieving to be done when that happens. And so when the law of life reflects that need to grieve back to us, don't resist it. Again, get the support we need. Any support you need, get that support. Help to do the grief work. And ultimately, we can give to those friends and family exactly what we want from them. What is it that we want from our friends and family who choose to leave us when we have a big and profound change in our life? We want them to just love and accept us as we are, right? To acknowledge that we're in the right place that we need to be, that we're learning and that we're growing and that we're doing better, and that infinite presence of unlimited love has us and is guaranteeing the highest good of all concerned. And so we can give that exact same thing to them. Regardless of how harsh or how painful the leaving of the experience was, we can love them to the very best of our ability, knowing that they are right where they need to be, that the unlimited presence of love and wisdom has them and is guaranteeing their highest good, and that there is nothing wrong in the world when that presence is birthing every one of us. And as we continue to love them regardless, we will change. Our experience of the now physically absent relationship will change. It will get better. There may be an opportunity in the physical world for that relationship to come back again, and there may not. But the truth is, as we continue to do this work of using the law of life to take off the mask that we have over our authentic self, to become more and more authentic, more and more loving, more and more light-like, more and more life-like, we will draw new people to us, new friends, new relationships, new chosen family. Not to replace the relationships that we've lost, because you can never really do that, but they will be deep and rich and profound. Those of you who have been around for a while probably know this. You've probably had that experience of finding a chosen family that is so rich and so powerful. Of course, we have the option to put the mask back on, right? We have the option to dim our own light, to cover up our own authenticity so that others don't feel uncomfortable. But once you start to take off the mask, it's really hard to put it back on. And it's not worth putting it back on, friends. Your light and your authenticity, the reflection in the mirror, is so much more important. There's one final quote from Ernest Holmes I want to share with you, and then go a little bit deeper into this idea about what the law of life is reflecting back to us. Ernest Holmes says, "We all look forward to the day when science and religion shall walk hand in hand through the visible to the invisible." So when it comes to the law of life reflecting back to us our thought in exactly the way we think it, and behind that reflecting back to us our perfect divine nature, what we know from the religion or spirituality side is that God is an infinite presence of unlimited and unconditional love that birthed you because you are the magnificence of it in expression, and its love for itself meant that it had to be you so that it could know itself as you, and you are perfect and holy and unlimitedly loved by the presence and power that birthed everything. For the science side of that, because they are walking hand in hand right now, for the science side of that, I want to turn to Neil deGrasse Tyson. I've got a brief video for you, and I just encourage you to sit back, allow the video to wash over you, and then when it's complete, just remain in silence for a moment.
What is the most astounding fact you can share with us about the universe? The most astounding fact is the knowledge that the atoms that comprise life on Earth, the atoms that make up the human body, are traceable to the crucibles that cooked light elements into heavy elements in their core under extreme temperatures and pressures. These stars, the high-mass ones among them, when unstable in their later years, they collapsed and then exploded, scattering their enriched guts across the galaxy. Guts made of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and all the fundamental ingredients of life itself. These ingredients become part of gas clouds that condense, collapse, form the next generation of solar systems, stars with orbiting planets. And those planets now have the ingredients for life itself. So that when I look up at the night sky, and I know that, yes, we are part of this universe, we are in this universe, but perhaps more important than both of those facts is that the universe is in us. When I reflect on that fact, I look up. Many people feel small because they're small and the universe is big, but I feel big because my atoms came from those stars. There's a level of connectivity. That's really what you want in life. You want to feel connected. You want to feel relevant. You want to feel like you're a participant in the goings-on of activities and events around you. That's precisely what we are, just by being alive.
So if you can just imagine how your life would change, how the lives of everybody around you would change, if you were able to live that truth, that scientific truth, that you are infinitely connected to the universe itself, and that spiritual truth, that the universe birthed you as itself because it so loved you as itself that it had to express that way. Don't put the masks back on. Don't go back to sleep. Continue to look in the mirror and continue to move in the direction of that truth, and you will change the world, and we will change it together. Namaste. Thank you. We have an opportunity now to engage in a bit of spiritual practice together, a bit of meditation and sitting in the silence. So I invite you to find yourself comfortable in your chair. Allow your eyes to close, to turn your attention within as we allow the music to bring us deeper to our spiritual center. And so breathing into that centered space, that loving space, we can begin to focus on the fact that our very atoms, the atoms of this body, came from the universe. That we are infinitely connected to that unlimited source of unconditional love. That it birthed us because it had to know the fullness of itself. That loving is who and what we are. Just as Spirit itself is a perfect expression of unlimited love, so too are we. Even when it's difficult, even when we want to resist and hold back our loving, our true nature is to love, and to love, and to love. And so as we spend some time in the silence today, we can look into the mirror that is reflecting back to us, ourself, and send love there. Love, love, love to that reflection, to that mirror, to that spiritual truth behind the masks. And we can send love to any friendship, to any family member, to any relationship that over time has waned or dissipated or gone away, and be in the practice of our authentic loving, regardless, just as Spirit is. Let's take some time in the silence together to love. Breathing that loving in, breathing that loving out. Sweet Spirit, we are so grateful for the love that we are, for the law of life reflecting back to us that perfect loving nature as we step into our greater expression, and for the love that we can send to all of our friends, family, and relations. Breathing in that high spiritual love once again, allowing it to fill our body, fill our hearts, enliven and energize us. Begin to wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, coming back into the room. When you're ready, allow your eyes to open and to be here now. We like to finish off every service with an affirmation, so you have an affirmation card on your chair. We will say that together and then move into treatment as we leave for the day. Are you ready? Together. The mirror of my life reflects the consciousness I hold. With this clarity, I am guided and empowered in my growth. Father, Mother God, sweet spirit of life, love, and wisdom that birthed the entire universe and birthed me, birthed everyone here, everyone online, everyone connected to this community in any way, we celebrate the good, the grace, the love, the life, the joy, the peace, and the light that is our life. We know as we go forward into this week, using the law of life, reflecting back to us our thinking, that we have all we need to catch ourselves in thinking that is not beneficial and to shift that thinking so that our experience can change and grow and we can take off those masks and shine more brightly. We send love, and more love to all of our friends and family and relationships, currently and former, knowing that the highest good of all concerned is being done right now through our lives, their lives, and the lives of every single expression of this perfect emanation of unconditional love that is Spirit and is us. In gratitude for this good and knowing that it is done, for that same presence that birthed the universe has already said yes, we simply allow it to be. And in that gratitude, saying, thank you, sweet Spirit, I proclaim it so, and so it is. Thank you so much for joining us here at Centers for Spiritual Living and online. If you found anything beneficial from today, share the service on Facebook. You never know what an impact you can have by sharing these ideas with others. Thank you so much, friends. We will see you next week back here in the house and online, 10 a.m. for meditation, 10:30 to celebrate your magnificence. Have a wonderful week. Namaste.
Thank you for watching, and thanks for supporting CSL. If you'd like to know more about us, check us out on our website or social media. Blessings.